Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the podcast where we really try to plunge into complex topics and pull out the key insights for you.
That's right.
And today, we're diving into something that shapes, well, pretty much every part of our lives.
Yeah.
Often without us even noticing it. The evolving roles of men and women.
It's something we navigate daily.
Right. But the deep history and constant changes often fly under the radar. This isn't just history. It's happening right now.
Absolutely. And our mission here is to sort of map out that journey for you. We'll go through centuries of cultural shifts, some fascinating science, major social changes.
Yeah.
The goal is really to pull out the most important bits about how these roles developed, where things stand today, and how they're still changing. We want you to feel really well informed.
Okay, so we've got a lot to cover then. We'll touch on the historical roots, right?
Sure.
What science actually says about differences. The huge shifts for both women and men, what's happening at work, in relationships.
Modern parenting, too.
Or, parenting. And how it looks different around the world, the economic side of things, and even how technology fits in.
It's a big picture.
Definitely. So where do we start? History.
Let's start way back. Think early human societies. For, a huge chunk of history, roles were mostly shaped by, biology and just basic survival needs.
Practical stuff.
Pretty much, pre-industrial life. Men were often doing tasks needing more physical strength, like hunting, maybe warfare, heavy labor.
Building, clearing land.
Exactly. And women tended to focus on things vital for the group's day-to-day and, future. Child rearing, preparing food, making textiles, keeping the home base going.
But it wasn't just practical, was it? You said it became embedded.
That's the crucial part. These divisions didn't stay just practical. They quickly got woven into culture, religion, even laws. They started defining what was expected.
Okay.
Then, boom, the Industrial Revolution hits. And especially in the West, this rearranges everything. It leads to this idea historians call separate spheres.
Separate spheres. Right, so men out in the world, women at home.
Basically, yeah. Men belonged in the public sphere work, politics, the economy, usually outside the home. Women were seen as, naturally suited for the private sphere, home, family being the moral compass.
And this wasn't just a vague idea, it was reinforced.
Oh, absolutely. By a science of the time, religious teachings, legal systems. Laws often stopped women owning property, voting, getting higher education. It was very specific, constructed reality.
But, and this is interesting, it wasn't like this everywhere.
Not at all. That's a key nuance. It's easy to think this was the global default, but nope. Lots of indigenous societies, much more egalitarian.
Really?
Yeah. And some cultures recognize more than two genders. And you find women in various civilizations holding real political and economic power. So those really rigid binary roles we think of as traditional, they were actually specific to certain times and places, not some universal human thing.
That really does challenge some assumptions.
It totally does. Which leads us to, okay, what does modern science say? Because it gives us much more nuanced insights. It looks at biological differences, but also pushes back against a lot of those old simplistic assumptions.
So biology isn't destiny, but there are differences.
Well, yes, on average. There are average physical differences, muscle mass, bone density, hormones, things like that. But, and this is so important, the overlap between men and women is enormous.
Meaning individuals vary a lot.
Hugely. Individual variation often outweighs any average difference between the groups. And crucially, these biological facts don't automatically lock anyone into a social role. Especially today, right? Physical strength just isn't the main requirement for most jobs anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. What about cognitive stuff? Brain differences?
Similar story, really. Research finds maybe small average variations in some areas, like spatial reasoning or verbal skills. And this is the big, but these are heavily influenced by environment, education, culture.
So nurture plays a huge role.
A massive role. Our brains are incredibly plastic, meaning they change with experience and training. You can literally train your brain to get better at spatial tasks, whatever your sex. So biological determinism. It's just not a good explanation for complex social roles.
It's much more about potential shaped by our world.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's pivot to women's roles specifically.
Yeah.
Historically, you mentioned they were often defined by having children and their relationship to men, daughter, wife, mother.
Yeah, and in the 19th century, this idea intensified with the cult of true womanhood. Piety, purity, being submissive, focused on the home.
That sounds quite restrictive.
It was. This ideal really limited women's options access to education, politics, economic independence. And it was often justified by saying women were just naturally more emotional, less rational, so the home was their proper place. Fulfillment was supposed to be found there and only there.
Wow. Compare that to today. It's a completely different world.
Night and day. Modern women are often juggling multiple roles all at once: professional, mother, partner, maybe community leader.
Like your example. The CEO in the boardroom in the morning, then at the school play in the evening.
Precisely. That reality directly contradicts the old idea that you couldn't be both a leader and a caregiver.
But it's not easy, right? This juggling act comes with challenges.
Definitely. There's the double burden, or second shift, as sociologists call it. Women often still carry the main load for housework and childcare on top of demanding careers.
That sounds exhausting.
It can be. The pressure to have it all, to excel everywhere, creates a lot of stress, internal conflict. Women face really complex decisions about timing, career moves, more education, financial goals, starting a family. It can feel like you can't win.
That double burden really hits home. Okay, let's flip to men's roles. Traditionally, it was all about being the provider, right?
Provider, protector, authority figure, that was the package. Men were expected to be stoic, competitive, strong, not show too much emotion.
And success was measured by?
Mostly professional achievement, providing financially. This is what's often called traditional masculinity: independence, dominance, keeping emotions buttoned up.
But that stoicism had a downside.
A big one. It often created barriers to real emotional intimacy, even within families. And the pressure. Imagine the potential shame or feelings of failure if you didn't achieve that economic success, even if it wasn't your fault.
It does sound like its own kind of trap, but things are changing for men too.
Hugely. Masculinity is being redefined. There's much more expectation now for men to be emotionally available partners, really involved fathers.
Which requires different skills.
Totally. Emotional intelligence, communication, nurturing things that weren't just ignored before, but often actively discouraged as unmanly.
And we see this playing out.
Yeah, look at the rise of stay-at-home dads. More men entering fields like nursing or teaching. Men saying work-life balance matters just as much as climbing the ladder. These are real shifts.
But it's not always smooth sailing.
No. Some men talk about feeling confused about their identity or getting criticized whether they embrace the changes or resist them. It's a transition zone.
Okay, let's talk about the workplace, because that's where these changes are so visible. The sheer number of women entering professions.
It's one of the biggest social shifts of the last century, easily. Women are nearly half the global workforce now, leading in all sorts of fields.
And it's not just numbers, it's challenging assumptions.
Absolutely. Women excelling in science, tech, law, business. Men moving into nursing, teaching, social work. It shows those old ideas about men's jobs and women's jobs were, well, artificial.
Plus, most couples are dual career now.
Right, that's the norm. Which means couples have to figure out new ways to manage careers and home life. You see more turn-taking, like, okay, my career gets priority for these few years while you maybe take a step back, then we switch. It's much more of a negotiation.
But challenges remain in the workplace.
Oh, for sure. Wage gaps persist. Women are still underrepresented at the very top levels. Workplace cultures often haven't caught up with the reality of employees having caregiving responsibilities.
And for men in female-dominated fields,
they can still face skepticism, maybe questions about their ambition. And honestly, many workplaces are still subtly structured around that old model of a male employee with a wife handling everything at home. That doesn't fit many people's lives anymore, men or women.
Which brings us to relationships and parenting. The old model was pretty clear-cut, right? Husband leads, wife manages the home.
Very clear divisions, yes, a set script. But contemporary relationships, they're much more about partnership, equality, sharing the load.
Like being a team.
Exactly, which sounds great, but it requires constant negotiation, communication, flexibility, everything from who takes out the trash to whose job requires a move across the country.
You mentioned relationship equity. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, it's this idea that fair doesn't have to mean 50-50 on every single task. It's more about partners agreeing on a division of labor that feels balanced to them based on their strengths, their circumstances. Maybe one person handles finances because they're good at it, the other organizes social stuff.
So it offers more satisfaction potential.
Definitely. But it also brings what some call decision fatigue. Because there's no script anymore, you have to decide everything. Who does school pickup? Whose career is on this year? It can be mentally exhausting because the old default answers are gone.
The decision fatigue point is really interesting. Yeah. And how does this play out in parenting? Big shifts there, too.
Huge. We've moved away from dad as the distant authority and mom as the only hands-on caregiver. Now we talk about involved fatherhood.
Meaning?
Fathers being emotionally present, active in daily care feeding, bathing, homework, bedtime stories, building those deep, nurturing bonds.
But there's a flip side for mothers, this intensive mothering.
Right. This pressure on women to be like the perfect, always available, optimizing parent, often while holding down a job. It's immense pressure.
So many families try collaborative parenting.
Yes, where both parents really share the duties, discipline, school stuff, emotional support, which is great for kids, gives them diverse role models.
But it takes coordination.
Lots of it. And sometimes society lags behind. Schools might still call mom first, or parental leave policies might not fully support equal sharing. The structures haven't always caught up.
Let's zoom out a bit. How do these changes look globally? Is it the same everywhere?
Not even close. Gender roles vary massively across cultures, religions, regions. There's no single path everyone's on.
Can you give an example?
Sure. You look in Nordic countries often seen as very advanced in gender equality with great parental leave, lots of women in the workforce. Then compare that to places with much more traditional gender segregation, maybe based on deep cultural or religious beliefs.
But even traditional cultures are changing.
They are. You see fascinating adaptations, blending old ways with new realities. It's not static anywhere.
And the economic side. Women working more has had a big impact.
Huge. It's boosted economic growth in many countries, but it also highlights needs like affordable childcare, flexible work. Many places are trying to create policies to support this because they see the economic upside.
So more equality is good for the economy.
The data suggests yes. Societies with greater gender equality often see higher productivity, more innovation. Diverse leadership teams tend to perform better.
But it disrupts things too.
It does. Old financial planning models based on one male earner. They don't work for many families now. People need new ways to think about retirement, insurance, investments.
Okay, one last piece. Technology. How does that fit in?
Tech's been a surprisingly big driver here. For one, it's reduced the need for physical strength in so many jobs, opening doors.
Right.
Plus, things like remote work, the gig economy, online businesses, they offer flexibility that can help people combine work and family life differently.
And social media.
Big influence. It exposes people to all kinds of different role models, ways of living. It gives people platforms to challenge old ideas, connect with others going through similar things.
But tech has downsides too.
Absolutely. Cyberbullying, the pressure of constantly comparing yourself to idealized online lives, the digital divide where some people lack access, and then there's AI and automation looming. How will that change jobs and potentially gender roles? We're just starting to grapple with that.
So with all this change, there must be ongoing debates.
Constantly. It's a sign of how dynamic this all is. You hear arguments that traditional roles, for all their faults, provided stability.
While others say they were fundamentally unfair.
Exactly. Unjust and limiting potential. Then there are tricky questions. How do we balance equality with acknowledging differences? How do we make space for diverse personal choices? Generational clashes pop up too. And crucially, we have to remember intersectionality, how race, class, sexuality, disability all interact with gender to create unique experiences. It's not one size fits all.
So looking ahead, what's the trajectory? More change.
Almost certainly. Gender roles will keep evolving with technology, the economy, social attitudes, generational shifts. It's not stopping.
And younger generations seem to be pushing boundaries further.
It looks that way. Many younger people seem to embrace much more fluid approaches, sometimes rejecting strict male-female categories altogether, crafting very individual paths for identity, relationships, work.
Which might require changes in policy and education.
Likely, yeah. More focus perhaps on supportive infrastructure, truly flexible work, universal childcare, economic safety nets for diverse life patterns, and maybe education systems that prepare people for more adaptability.
So the future isn't about finding one right model.
Probably not. It seems more likely we'll see continued diversification. Different societies, different communities, even different families finding ways to balance efficiency, happiness, fairness, and their own values. It's an ongoing negotiation.
Okay, let's wrap this up. What's the main takeaway from this deep dive?
I think it's that the roles of men and women today are this incredibly complex mix. History, biology, personal choice, social forces, all woven together.
And this massive shift has created huge opportunities, right? For people to choose their own paths, build partnerships on their own terms, beyond those old prescriptions.
Unprecedented opportunities, absolutely. But also new challenges, all that decision-making we talked about, figuring out identity, just coordinating everything in society.
So the final thought for our listeners.
Maybe it's this. Figuring out how to navigate this ongoing evolution, which looks like it's heading towards more diversity, not less, is one of the really big social projects of our time.
And success isn't about finding one answer.
No, it seems to require open communication, respecting different choices, making our institutions more flexible, and really recognizing that there isn't just one right way to organize our lives and responsibilities.